Thanks to those new charter students for getting things started, and thanks to all of you for wrapping up your week with CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azuz. First up today, parts of Texas are recovering from severe weather that hit on Wednesday. The National Weather Service says at least 10 tornadoes touched down in the area. The U.S. gets more tornadoes per year than any other country. These storms can show up anytime, but the peak months are April, May, and June. The ones that hit North Texas killed at least 6 people. Rescue crews were searching for others who were missing yesterday. Officials say the victims were in this neighborhood. Most of the homes there were destroyed. You can see some foundations where the buildings are just completely gone. And some of the homes that are standing, like this one, still got massive damage. Recovery efforts could take a while. If you're looking for a way to help out, go to the resources box at cnnstudentnews.com and click the Impact Your World link. Following up now on a couple government stories. Earlier this week, we reported on a scandal involving the IRS. The agency admitted that when groups from the Tea Party movement and other conservative groups applied for a tax-exempt status, their applications were targeted for extra review. It was basically political bias. You can get all the details on what happened in the transcript from Monday's show. The acting commissioner of the IRS was forced to resign this week because of the scandal. The reaction from across Washington, outrage.
Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or an independent in this country, to take the abuse of a $3.8 trillion government, the power of that government, and to use it to stifle opposition is profoundly un-American.
It should not matter what political stripe you're from. The fact of the matter is that the IRS has to operate with absolute integrity. The government generally has to conduct itself in a way that is true to the public trust. That's especially true for the IRS. It's inexcusable, and Americans are right to be angry about it.
There are laws in place to prevent this type of abuse. My question isn't about who's going to resign. My question is, who's going to jail over this scandal?
The other follow-up is about a terrorist attack against a U.S. facility in Benghazi, Libya last year. 4 Americans were killed, including the U.S. ambassador to Libya. There's been a lot of criticism about how President Obama's administration responded. Wednesday, the White House released more than 100 pages of emails about that response. The communications between the White House, CIA, and State Department show how the administration developed its talking points. That's the information the government would share publicly. Representative Darrell Issa, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, explained why Congress is holding hearings about Benghazi.
Our solemn responsibility is to hold government accountable to taxpayers, because taxpayers have a right to know what they get from their government.
Today's first shout-out goes out to Mr. and Mrs. Heller's academic enrichment classes at Westminster High School in Westminster, Colorado. What U.S. holiday is being celebrated tomorrow? Here we go. Is it Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, Arbor Day, or Flag Day? You've got 3 seconds. Go. Armed Forces Day falls on the 3rd Saturday in May. That's tomorrow. And that's your answer, and that's your shout-out.
You're probably not as familiar with Armed Forces Day as you are with Memorial Day or Veterans Day. But the holiday celebrated this Saturday dates back to 1949 when it was announced to honor all branches of the U.S. military. In honor of Armed Forces Day, we're drumming up some military trivia. First, the oldest and largest branch. You'll probably guess it's the Army, but did you know that it dates back to June of 1775? That's a year before the Declaration of Independence was signed. The Navy was also established that year on October 13th, and on November 10th, 1775, the Marine Corps was born. All 3 of these groups would fight in the Revolutionary War. The U.S. Coast Guard came along in 1790, but not as the Coast Guard. It was called the Revenue Marine Service, and it was created by Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton. The Coast Guard got its current name in 1915. The youngest branch is the Air Force, of course. Couldn't get that one off the ground without planes, but even after those did take flight and start their military service, they were part of the Army until 1947. People always talk about prom as a night to remember. For a group of high school students from Davie, Florida, theirs is a night they'll probably never forget.
We're on the limo and we're all dancing, having a good time, excited to go to prom, and then all of a sudden the bus slams on his brakes. I was the first to think, call 911, so I stepped to the side, I called 911, I was calm.
Staying calm would be impressive enough considering this is why the driver slammed on the brakes. A van had swerved, wrecked, and flipped on its side right in front of them. The limo driver and 20 students got out, jumped into action, helping rescue the 5 adults and 2 kids in the van. Police and firefighters showed up a few minutes later, and everyone from the van was taken to the hospital. As for the students, after going through all that, they went on to their senior prom. They were a little disheveled, but still determined to be there.
We had all made it. We were just happy to know that we were all alive and we enjoyed our night.
Seniors, we want to hear from you. What are you planning to do after graduation? Work, higher education, serve in the military? Tell us in our quick poll. It's on the blog at cnnstudentnews.com.
Today's shout out extra credit goes out to Mrs. Essex Social Studies classes at the Christian Academy of Lawrenceburg in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. On what type of vehicle would you find a derailleur? You know what to do. Is it on a train, bicycle, roller coaster, or zeppelin? Put another 3 seconds on the clock and go. On bikes, the derailleur moves a chain in order to shift gears. That's your answer, and that's your shout-out extra credit.
When I was in school, my very first car was a bike, but I couldn't fix a rear derailleur, and students in the Oasis Bike Workshop probably can't either at first. But when they finish, they know their way around every inch of the vehicle, and they ride away with much more than wheels.
How many of you guys think you have a friend who has like a flat tire, his bike's just been sitting around? You guys could probably help him out with that? Yeah? I bet you can. I'm Dan Furbish. I'm the coordinator of the Oasis Bike Workshop in Nashville, Tennessee. This is a 6-week workshop that the students sign up for. We work with middle school and high school students. On the first class, a student will come in here and pick out a bike. Whether or not it's a full, complete bike, an older bike, or a brand new bike that doesn't need any work, they're going to strip the whole thing down to the frame and start rebuilding it from scratch. In the process of rebuilding, seeing all the working parts of a bike, when they finish this program, they're going to know how to fix it. And we have them pledge that they're going to take all these skills that they've gained over the past 6 weeks and take them back to their neighborhoods and help out their friends.
It's my first bike taking apart and putting back together. It gives us character, leadership. My friends may have a little trouble, but you know what? I can be there and say, you know what? A few months ago at the bike workshop, I actually did this, so I can actually help you.
These bikes are really a tool for freedom, especially for a lot of the homeless teens that we work with. They really need bicycles to get around and interview for jobs, and a lot of them are taking classes at different schools around town. So these bikes are like they're prized possessions. They really need these. The hope is that that the teens will come in here, build a bike, and really use it as like a tool for empowerment to explore beyond their neighborhoods and communities. The more they know about their city, the more they're going to want to give back to it. I can't imagine a more like tangible, concrete example of something that is like gives you freedom and is really empowering for a kid, especially if it's something they put together themselves and built.
When you're dealing with several things at the same time, sometimes it's called juggling. When the things you're doing at the same time are juggling and jogging, it's called joggling. At least that's what Ivan Schleppenbach calls it. We'll take his word for it since he's the one doing it. The college freshman is in training to joggle his way through a half marathon this weekend. 3 balls, 13.1 miles, and after the race, some may forget about Ivan. But it shouldn't take much to remind them. A little jog will do it. I just hope Ivan doesn't get tripped up by some simple mistake. It'd be awful if he dropped the ball and overshadowed his amazing feat. Even if that happens, I'm sure he'll take it all in stride. We reached today's finish line. Have a great weekend, y'all.